My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey guys and gals, welcome back. Let me ask you a question. If you're a Canadian real estate investor, have you ever worked with a real estate lawyer? Chances are you probably have. Chances are you probably had to pay a few bucks for that. So today you're in for a special treat because we get to pick the brains of a real estate lawyer, Mr. Gordon Kallio, zooming in from beautiful Barrie, Ontario. And that's what Gordon focuses on. He focuses on real estate law. So he's not a jack of all trades lawyer. He is a specialist. So Gordon, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah. So Gordon, tell me a little bit about what kind of real estate law you focus on primarily. Like what is your primary bread and butter when it comes to business these days?
So these days it's a lot more litigation focused with regards to breaches of agreements, people trying to get out of pre-construction that isn't worth what they signed it for. I got my start in private lending, so I also understand the whole mortgage aspect with the power of sale and things like that. So I get consultations for things like that as well.
Okay, so for folks that aren't super familiar with this, zoom us out 30,000 foot perspective. What is the big problem a lot of your clients are coming up against these days that they have to do this, what you call a breach of agreement, which is basically breaking a contract? So tell us a little bit about what that looks like, big picture.
So big picture is during the COVID frenzy, 2019, 2020, and 2021, even 2022, people were signing pre-construction agreements at high prices, and now they're just simply not worth that value. So when they go to get appraisals done by their bank, the bank provides an appraisal that's $300,000 short of what they signed it for. So they need to come up with that cash in order to close. If they can't, then the builder can relist, and any losses that they have, they'll file a statement of claim against them for that. And a lot of times these clients, they own other real estate, so they know that they've checked title. In these statements of claim, they'll say, you also purchased a pre-construction property 6 months before that, but in your contract you said that you were going to live at this property. So why did that happen? Did you lie? Was this all in bad faith? And the courts don't like that, obviously, if you sign an agreement in bad faith. So there's a lot of people that intend to own things as investments, but their contract says otherwise.
Oh, geez. So let me see if I can unpack this for folks and simplify it for my own concept. So back in the heyday, the pandemic heyday, construction was going kind of crazy. Property prices were going absolutely nuts. And there was a condo building frenzy, and everybody got very greedy and started to speculate on these because it seemed like they were just going, values are going up and up and up and up. So the concept was for a lot of people, hey, get in on the ground floor on these condos, lock in the price today, wait a few years before you actually have to buy the thing. So put down a deposit today. And then in 2 or 3 years, when the building is finally finished, you can just turn around and sell your contract to an end buyer and make an easy couple of $100,000 when you've probably only had to put in $50,000, $60,000 down payment. But the challenge is that things haven't turned out completely according to plan. So now there's a glut of condominiums that are coming onto the market kind of all at one time. The demand isn't there. So the price that people paid, the speculators paid early days when they locked into these condos, they aren't the developers. That's not the market value of these condos today. They're worth a lot less than what they agreed to pay for day one. And the developers aren't letting them off the hook. They aren't letting them back out of these contracts like what used to happen in the past. It's not a matter of, hey, I'm Dave and I put in 50,000 to for deposit for this condo, and now I don't want it, so keep my 50,000, but I'm not going to complete. It's worse than that. Now, not only do you lose the 50,000, the developer can go sell the property for whatever they get for it and come after you for the difference between that and what I agreed to pay them 3 or 4 years ago. Am I getting the gist?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. And with the assignments as well, a lot of people they don't negotiate that at the time of signing. So sometimes they don't even get approved to do an assignment if they're trying to offload it for 100 grand less. They won't approve it. So then they have to ask for consent and things like that. And sometimes the developer is actually trying to sell those last few units, and they don't want somebody else to be able to buy it 100 grand less. They want them to have to buy it from them directly.
Wow. Okay, so are you seeing this primarily as a big problem for not very experienced, maybe uneducated investors, or are there a lot of seasoned investors who are getting burned by this as well?
It's mostly like newer investors, but they can be, older in age. So I get a lot of clients that say, well, I've owned, 4 or 5 properties in my lifetime, and I thought that this would be a good deal. And they're then required to put a new mortgage on their house that they might not have had a mortgage on in the past, 10 years, just to be able to close on these properties to avoid a statement of claim against them. And what is also happening is there's a place in Milton, a development where RBC is giving a blanket appraisal. So they were purchased for around 2.2 million. They're now about $600,000 less. So in the 1.6, maybe $1.5 million range. And RBC is giving a blanket appraisal so they can purchase the property at the 2.2 valuation, which obviously they're going to be paying a mortgage that is worth more than the property. So when they go to sell, it's not going to be very easy.
Yeah, so the other challenge is these speculative investors, maybe if they do refinance their house and come up with the extra couple hundred grand to close on these investment properties, they never planned to have the hold these as rentals anyhow. Now they have to get a tenant in there, rent it out, and go massively cash flow negative because between what they have to fork out for a mortgage and what the strata fees are going to be, condo association fees are on this, there's no way that these kind of properties are cash flowing. So not only are they getting whacked with having to come out of pocket, but they're probably going deeper in debt every single month.
Yeah, and that's exacerbated by the occupancy period as well. So if they're, on the lower levels that obtain occupancy, possibly a year before the final closing happens, and they don't have in their agreement that they're allowed to lease the unit during occupancy, then it's just sitting empty, and they're paying essentially interest on the remaining balance. So it could be, $800,000, and then as the remaining balance, there's a percentage of that using the interest rate. So sometimes those occupancy fees are like $3,000-4,000 every month they're losing, on top of you know the the fear that they're not going to be able to close in by the time the final closing happens.
Wow. So this is all doom and gloomy talk. Are there any potential solutions for people? Like when these people come to you, are you able to help them?
A lot of times it's very difficult with developers. It depends on how uh, seasoned the developer is. So if it's a newer developer, they might not want to go through the whole statement of claim process, especially if the people don't own any other properties. If they were first-time home buyers, then it's a little bit easier to try to get them out and just forfeit the deposits. But a lot of the time they want you to breach. They give you, they tender on you at the day of closing. They say, or they let you know that you're an anticipatory breach, and then they go and they sell the unit themselves. So a lot of times it's very difficult to get out. It's a lot easier if it's a resale property and you're buying from somebody that's not an institution. But when it's a developer, they've been through this before. The 90s, things like this happened as well. So they've learned, they have good counsel to advise them of what their rights are. But a lot of the time it ends up being a lot of loss. And so I've seen people have to then turn around and sell their principal residence just to be able to close on these properties to avoid the potential of a lawsuit. And then you have to defend the lawsuit, and costs go up significantly.
Are you seeing people going into personal bankruptcy because of these situations?
Not yet. A lot of it is like now is I'm seeing a lot of people calling me while they're in the courtroom for their first appearance. A lot of people have asked if they can pretend to divorce their wife and transfer the principal residence to them, but that's all in bad faith. So you really need to act in good faith. But bankruptcies they will be coming, and as long as there's no fraud, fraud vitiates any of that those statement of those bankruptcies. But it's scary for sure for a lot of investors.
Yeah. Yeah. So big lessons learned would be, what would you tell somebody who 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, and we're not in the situation we are right now, and things start humming again, and people start feeling that FOMO, fear of missing out. What cautionary tales or suggestions would you give folks?
Definitely get your agreement reviewed by a seasoned lawyer. So sometimes clients say they never got it reviewed during their cooling down period, but some of them they get them reviewed by lawyers that they don't really know what they're advising the client on. So that you have those options of leasing during occupancy, you have the options of assignment, and then you also understand the potential consequences. So you need to be prepared to close on these units, regardless of what happens. And maybe it might be better for these people to wait until near to the closing and then purchase an assignment and maybe get a good deal on the assignment, or maybe the builder is willing to let go of their remaining units for less value than what they were selling them at the first few phases.
Yeah. So, as with anything, when you speculate, there's the opportunity for massive upside. Now we're learning about the opportunity for massive downside on this as well, because for a while there, people were just printing money with this strategy of getting in early days, locking something in for just a 50, 60, $80,000 deposit. In the good old days, they didn't have to worry about it. If it didn't work out, worst case, they walk away from their deposit. Now that ain't the case. They're still on the hook, and it can be a very, very painful process. Whew. Yeah, scary stuff, Gordon. Now, I nobody's got a crystal ball, but do you have any thoughts about where the condo market might be going in Ontario over the next couple of years? Which is hard to tell with tariffs and everything now coming into play, but
I think it's still going to be coming down. I'm seeing a lot of investors especially in Toronto, they're offering like free rent for a few months just to entice people to come and rent their units. And eventually that's going to catch up to them, and they might not be able to keep up with the mortgage payments, and then power of sale happens. So I think it's going to have to come down, or inflation's going to have to catch up to the value of the homes, because there's really not that many people that can afford 2,000 plus rental payments that are renting, right? Especially the younger generations that aren't able to get even part-time jobs during school. They come out with a lot more debt than they used to.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, hey, this has been very interesting, if not a little bit depressing here, Gordon. But if people if people would like to connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
LinkedIn, just my name, Gordon Kallio. I offer 30-minute free consultations for people that are going through issues like this, and want some advice on how to get out of it or what the best next step is. And usually the best step is to close on the unit or try to find an assignment if they're able to.
Very good. Now, do you only operate in Ontario, or can you help people from out of province as well?
I'm only licensed in Ontario for now. I'm working on getting that transferred over to Alberta as well, but for now it's just in Ontario, and but I can service anybody in the province of Ontario.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thanks for being on the show, Gordon.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
All right, everybody, take care. We will see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.